Welcome to Was I in a Cult? Part 79. So if you've been following my story, you might have remembered that I talked about someone named Diane who had a girls' home back in like 1995, 96, around that time frame. She was the same person that I mentioned that I believe was part of the group that had falsely accused me of using drugs when I was at a evangelistic type thing with our church. I believe it was done out of jealousy because of the fact that the leadership put me in charge of a group of about 25, and her girls were under the group that I was put over, and I don't think she liked that. I could be wrong, but that's kind of like what I came to the conclusion of when I thought about this story. Regardless, she was the one that handed in the baggie of medicine that I have, which was actually Sudafed and, just different things like that were over the counter that I took with me because I had allergies. I think I was also taking an asthma pill at that time, so I had put them in a little bag, and she turned that into the leadership above us and basically falsely accused me of using drugs of some sort. She tried to tell me that her girls in her girls' home found them in my makeup kit and turned them into her, so she had to turn them into, the leadership. So I already told that story, so I'm not going to tell it all over again, so hopefully you can find it. I'll try to look for it and comment later about where that story's at. After that situation, I remember about a year later, so I think around 1996, I met this new girl that entered into Diane's girls' home, and her name was Monica. I really liked Monica a lot, and I wanted to get to know her, but I was kind of limited, again, because she was in a home and I didn't really have a way of talking to her other than a few moments at church. And again, since I think that Diane didn't really want me to be around her girls' home to have any influence over them, she kind of didn't really allow me to interact with them so much. So it was only in passing. At one point of time, Monica left the home, and all kinds of things happened to where she ended up ending up in a mental institution. And I remember that I wanted to go visit her, and I had also been volunteering at this other mental hospital, I think in Norwalk, I forgot the name, Metropolitan Hospital at the time. And I was going in there, I was giving a Bible study, and I was actually pairing up with one of the therapists, and we were having kind of this group therapy session in that facility. And so at one point in time, I think Monica left the church, and she had some mental issues happening. And honestly, what I think was happening was because she was a lesbian, and her parents and her the leadership in our church did not want that, and so that they were trying to help her and get her the conversion therapy when she was only I think 15 years old at the time. I mean, maybe 16. I think she was 15 when I met her, and she was 16 when I think all that was happening. And I remember going to visit her with my other friend Yoli, and it was somewhere around 1998, 99. And I remember trying to go visit her. When she got out, she ended up moving in with her girlfriend, and I just remember trying to get her to come back to church, and I would stop by her house after work because she lived down the street from where I was working at the time. And so I would just stop by and try to get her to come with me, because she left the girls' home, and then she left the church altogether and wasn't coming at all. So I was just trying to help her. fast forward to the year 2000, we had a big, huge world conference with our church again, and it was in Long Beach at the convention center. And I, at the time, had gotten custody of my nephew, which is a whole different story that maybe I'll share later. But I had my nephew, and I was walking to the service at one of the the convention halls, and I hear Shannon, Shannon, and I turn around and it's Monica, and she's like, "Oh my God, how are you?" And I hadn't seen her in years, like a few years, and she's like, "Hey, I want to go to the youth services at the mother church, and I want to come, and like maybe we can go together." So I was like, "Yeah, of course, like I'll pick you up, we'll go," and stuff like that. So we exchanged numbers, and around that time she was like 21. I think she had just turned 21, and she was living with her brother, and they were sharing an apartment together in Burbank. So I would drive all the way from where I lived at the time in Azusa to Burbank to go pick her up, and then take her back to La Puente where the church was, and then drive her back to Burbank. So we spent a lot of time together, and we hung out a lot because I started taking her like every week, and then we started hanging out outside of that and talking on the phone a lot also. So we started to get really close. Next thing you know, like I started having feelings for her. And I think it started one day. I was taking her home from church, and so we would go to her house, and sometimes we would sit and chat in the car before she'd go home and stuff. And a lot of times, like, her brother didn't want her to come home right away because he had friends over or something like that, so we would go hang out. And one time we were sitting in the car, we're talking, and I don't know how it happened, but she ended up like laying in my lap, and then I was playing with her hair, and I just started like, having those feelings, you know what I mean, for her and stuff. And it just like progressed over time, and it was mutual. But both of us were trying our very best to like not go there, because both of us had basically been in the middle of like conversion therapy, trying to change ourselves and become straight. I remember one time I picked her up to go to a seminar, I think in a different city, and it was going to be like a weekend seminar. And when we went, we didn't really even know where we were going to stay. We were just like, let's go. And it was like about an hour away or whatever, and I just figured, like, worst comes to worst, like, I'll drive back home if we can't find any place to stay, but we'll see what happens when we get there, right? So we go, we start it, like, the way it felt in that church was kind of like it was a family. And so, like, if you were coming from another church and you were visiting, like, other church members would like kind of put you up, you know what I mean, and like have you stay the night with them and stuff. So basically that is what ended up happening. We ended up staying with a couple, and they had a spare bedroom, so they let us stay there. I remember in the morning we were getting ready to go to church service, and again, I think it was like a big seminar where it was going to be like an all-day event or something. And we were getting ready, and she was like didn't know much about makeup, and so she was like, "Can you help me with my lipstick?" And that was really hard because I was like so close to her, and all I wanted to do was kiss her, and I don't know what she was feeling, but I was like feeling stuff. And she had helped me blow dry my hair, and she was like running her fingers through my hair, and I was feeling stuff. It was so hard because I had worked so hard to get over that area in my life that everyone was telling me I had to overcome, and I was back in the same situation all over again. So the resisting happened that weekend, and we were able to overcome those temptations that weekend. But literally it was just building up to that moment when it ended up happening later on. I'm running out of time, so I guess we're going to talk more about this later.